Hello everyone, I'm Dan, I'm from Croydon Companion Dog Club, and this is
Hiya, I'm Rue from Be At One Dog Training.
so we're coming to you today to do our second podcast together, and thought it would be a good idea for us to chat about kind of reinforcing what we say to our dogs and making sure that we're keeping things very black and white and that consistency is there. So we were talking just before the podcast, and Rue was telling me something about one of her dogs who was on steroids at the time, and how she noticed that one small thing that the dog used to do, kind of in terms of its listening, was kind of detrimented, I guess, to then going on the medication and not listening as well, and how that kind of impacted on kind of a lot of her behaviors. Rue, do you just want to kind of go into a little bit more depth about that? I think I've explained that terribly, but
No, it was fine. You just gave an overview. It was great. So it was actually my current dog, Rafiki, who most people would know. Anyone that has knows me from dog training or just followed any form of journey of mine would know about kind of the leaps and bounds in the training, especially when it comes to her prey drive. Having an alleged cat killing history, to living with a cat, and so on and so forth. So prior to the steroids, she was, as great as I could expect her to be. No, not perfect. No dog's perfect. She had her quirks. But she was as great as I'd expect her to be. And she went on steroids for she's got very bad back end, back legs, hips, and everything. So she's gone on steroids. And I hadn't experienced a dog on steroids like this before. I've spoken to some other people, some other trainers, and they've said to me, especially Robert Elaine, has said to me, no, no, if you have a dog on steroids, you leave it on the lead. I wish I'd heard that before because I'd never experienced this before. So it started off something as, I don't want to say minor. When I say minor, it's not detrimental to society as scavenging. Obviously, scavenging can be very dangerous to the dog.
mhm.
But in terms of the safety of, the world, scavenging is down lower on the list. Safety for her higher on the list. So anyway, it started off at scavenging. So most people might know that when you have a dog on steroids, they're kind of extra hungry. Um, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. It wasn't written on her medicine as a possible side effect. I didn't do research. And so she's just scavenging, and I started saying, leave it, leave it. And I realized that she just wasn't leaving it. And I pride myself very much on my ability to tell my dog to leave it, and she leaves it. So I'd done a little bit of research and I realized, oh, dogs scavenge. I didn't really think anything of it. So, but then what I noticed was how she stopped listening in other areas. So, I'm telling her to leave it. And when she's not leaving the food, my brain didn't think, well, maybe she won't leave something else. So I'm saying, Fifi, Rafiki, come here. And she's not coming here. So I'm recalling her and she's not coming. Eventually she did. I never let the problems progress significantly. As soon as I realized there was these little issues happening, she went back to strict lead walks.
Mhm.
But it's just very interesting how, often people say, oh, I don't mind the dog doing this. I don't mind the dog doing that. I don't mind them not listening in this area and whatever, whatever. And I'm constantly trying, constantly reinforcing, if your dog fails to listen to you here, it will transfer to here and here and here. And then it will just progress and progress and progress into a dog that is completely out of control. And that was a very, very real reminder to myself as a dog owner and a dog trainer about how real this can actually be and how easy it is to go from a dog who, people stop me in the street and say, oh gosh, I wish my dog was like your dog. I wish my dog was like your dog. Um, and then it's just completely just unraveled just because she got away with scavenging a few times. She got away with scavenging a few times, and in her mind, she thought, well, where else can I apply this
Mhm.
disobedience and
Mhm.
get away with it? And
Mhm.
yeah, that's the story of Rafiki and steroids.
And I think it's really interesting what you said about, um, when the dog learns at that level that maybe it doesn't need to listen, why is it then going to listen at that level or even that level?
Hmm.
Because, like you, certainly in my behaviour consultations, the owners will quite often they'll phone me for the behaviour that they deem to be the big behaviour, the issue at
Hmm.
hand that they want dealt with. And normally there's a whole underlying kind of list of problems that the dog doesn't, normally pulls in the lead. It jumps up when the owners come in. And I often find that the owners have really tried to resolve those issues, but they've manifested into something much bigger. Um, I normally find, and I don't know if it's you, is that then becomes the lack of that consistency in the training where the owners just go, oh, whatever,
Hmm.
and walk off, which, we said before we started recording. I get it at times. There's times where I do get it. You do have days where the dog, you just want to go. Um, but that consistency is so important to really make sure that you're reinforcing what it is you want in the dog to do. We have to learn to reinforce things, and in every walk of life, there is reinforcement for something. You
Hmm.
do well at your job, you get paid well for it. That's a positive reinforcement of doing well at something. Um, but to let that slide the once, the dog will go, "Oh, I can jump up more. That's cool." So for Rafiki, how did that manifest into kind of scavenging? Did that then manifest into other behaviors as well, or?
Well, it did. 'Cause I didn't let it unravel as much
Hmm.
as uh, it could have unraveled. It was simply just, oh, she was scavenging. Okay, then I'm going to be a bit cautious about where I let her off the lead. Have to scale
Hmm.
the area a little bit. And then it was, well, hold on, she's not coming back. I'm saying come here, and she's not coming back. And that was enough for me. And I'd wish it was enough for everyone, really.
Mm.
They
Mm.
realize your dog's not listening. You go right backwards, straight back on the lead, straight away.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, because otherwise, where else? I mean, that could have been quite dangerous. Just
Hmm.
where else does it go? Does it now unravel her prey drive training? Does it unravel her not chasing other dogs training? Does it
Hmm.
unravel her not jumping up on people training? Because these are all
Hmm.
very real things that
Yeah,
she
yeah,
used
yeah.
to do when I got her, when she was, I think she was just gone 2 when I got her. And all of these things were things she done. So I just didn't let it continue. But
Hmm.
the final, I guess it was just very, very lucky for myself that the day I noticed that she wasn't coming back, I was in, I was like, oh no, like a dead end area. There's like a little grass where it's like
Yeah.
a dead end. And she wasn't trying to run from me. And if it hadn't progressed to that, so I literally just walked up to her. She didn't move. And I just clicked her on the lead. And that was the end of that story. There was no more.
Hmm. Hmm.
Until she's off these steroids, she is not coming off the lead, not in secure areas, not in anywhere, not in dead ends, not in areas that just because I can't see other dogs.
Hmm.
Um, because I knew that my leave it was not working. And
Hmm.
if you don't have a good leave it, your dog is vulnerable to just the world, really.
Yeah,
Just,
yeah, yeah.
if you can't tell your dog, leave that person, leave that food, leave that dog, leave that squirrel, leave that cat, you just open just Pandora's box to
Yeah.
danger. So after that, it was very much management.
Hmm.
If I said leave that food, she wasn't leaving it. And this was a medical problem. This wasn't a training problem. So it came down to management, temporary management, which is a great tool. Management is a fantastic tool as long as you're not accepting that it's permanent.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it was down to management. It was more physically pulling her away if she saw something of interest to eat. Um, and reinforcing, going back to, the use of tools. I like to use spray collars, rattle cans, pet corrector sprays, just going back a few steps to making sure I'm prepared to reinforce where needed.
Hmm.
And then also making sure I've got some delicious treats with me, giving her like belly strokes. She loves to roll around on the grass, just anything that she likes, using that to reinforce our relationship more than anything, more than
Hmm.
training, just doing
Hmm.
things that she likes, within reason, obviously, for good reason
Hmm.
as well. more than trying to enforce things, more than trying to implement things. I was more enforcing things
Hmm.
she was doing. So if she was walking nicely next to me, obviously I'm going to reward that. If
Hmm.
she was just, wanting to be a bit playful, I'd like give her the belly rubs and stuff because she couldn't really
Hmm.
lock. She got bad legs.
Yeah.
But yeah, much in short, I just didn't let it unravel completely.
Uh-huh.
But it definitely could have, especially yeah,
Hmm.
it definitely could have. And now she's back to her old self now. She's been off the steroids for quite a long time. But it took some training. We had to go backwards in a few areas, especially for that scavenging, because she realized, oh, this is great. This is great. Not listening to her gets me a reward. This is great.
And I think that's a thing that people forget as well. There's a great diagram. I'll send it to you later. Maybe we can add it in the podcast. And it's kind of the top line is of a flat path and someone on, I think they're on a bike.
Yes.
Um, and it says the person's idea of how their training journey is going to go with their dog, and it's
Yeah,
just a nice flat path, easy going, happy go lucky. I think there might even be bunnies and rainbows and
yeah, of course,
unicorns at
yeah.
that top one, but all nice and easy. And then underneath that, it's like the reality of dog training,
Yeah,
and it's all dips and hills and crevices at the bottom, then flat lines, and then you go up a hill again. And I think that's where people get really kind of stumped and frustrated is, you see all these kind of dog training shows and all these like clips on social media now, where it makes it appear that dog training's fixed like that, done,
yeah,
dusted. 5 minute session, good as gold. Your
yeah.
dog's fixed.
Just tell your
And
dog no,
actually,
and it's
yeah,
done. Just
that's
tell
it.
them no.
Sorted. Um, and that's it. It's done and dusted. And actually, in theory and in reality, that just isn't the case.
No.
There is. I often speak to clients and I say, how many years did your children go to school for? And they'll go, oh, 18. And I go, okay, so we now have a 6 month old puppy in front of us, and you're just expecting it in 6 months to be trained.
God,
Yes, they develop
life's not
quicker,
even started.
but life hasn't even started. Like, you've got to continue educating them all the way through their life to a degree. And it does get easier, I think, as they get older most of the time. Um, but again, it comes back to making sure you're reinforcing that training, you're being consistent with that training every time you do have a hill or a crevice coming into play. It's like I think we spoke about my new dog, Lady.
Maybe.
We got really, really well, done really well. I was on that flat path, was like, yes, brilliant. We've just hit this week a bit of a bump where she ate her bed. We thought we'd cracked the chewing, but we obviously haven't. So I'm back to square one with that, and we're
Yeah,
teaching her that actually, do you know what? Chewing things isn't going to get you
yeah,
anywhere.
yeah.
Um,
Gonna eat this.
so yeah, don't
Um,
eat that. Don't chew on that. Let's just give up on this. Just
yeah,
go and lie down on your bed rather than eat it.
yeah,
And I think that is such a big thing for owners. But again, I think what you were saying is how kind of it started with scavenging, and then there was a point where Rafiki wasn't really kind of coming back.
yeah. To
Um,
happen once
and
and it
eventually
never
you
let it
kind
happen
of,
again.
yeah, you kind of, you put on lead and that was that. It's not going to happen. Is a real kind of real life thing, I think. So many times we go to the park and we spoke in our last podcast about dogs being off lead and things like that. But something as simple as just putting your dog on the lead and saying, okay, well, you didn't come back to me. You're not doing that again.
Yeah, we
And
need to
teaching
fix
the dog
this.
it loses its freedom, if you like, is going to help educate that dog rather than the dog just consistently being able to run off and do whatever it likes, which, can be dangerous for dog and owner if we were to go by the law. But I'm not going to get too much into that because hopefully our next podcast
Another
is going to be
podcast. Yeah.
an interesting one. But something I think is really good, which a good friend of ours often says, is all they're doing is practicing not listening really, really well.
Yeah. Yeah, and
They become
realizing how
so good
much
at it.
is so much benefit as well, like how fun it is to not listen, which is
Yeah,
exactly what Rafiki realized when she was scavenging. She thought, well, this is way more rewarding than listening because if I listen to you, I can't have that fox poo. Ugh.
yeah,
Or I can't
yeah.
have that chicken
Agree.
bone or whatever it is that someone's thrown out the window because that's what people like to do here, like to throw things out the window. I can't
Yeah,
have that bread. And then she thought, well, what else can I do that's more fun? So like, why would I come back to you? Like, actually, looking for chicken bones is more fun than coming back. There's nothing you can give me that is more satisfying right now than me looking for these chicken bones and eating them. So I'm
not
not
even if you throw a
here.
load of sausages on the floor,
But what? Just sprinkle.
just sprinkle.
Yeah, sprinkle.
Look what I got.
Salt
Go.
Bay. Just literally just sprinkle, just scatter feed, which would just, just join in with the chicken bones. It'd be
Yeah,
extra
just
great fun.
yeah.
I'm definitely not going to listen to you. I'm going to
Super
eat.
doggy picnic.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. Oh gosh. And actually, recently, just to reinforce why scavenging is so horrendous, there was a dog in this area very recently. I think people have been poisoning foxes. You got half the estate that feeds foxes and thinks they're great and loves them and so on and so forth. I'm that half. And then you got the other half that, or it could be the council, I'm not sure, that are finding them to be an issue. And yeah, it looks as if there's been some food poisoned and their dog, there's a small dog, Jack Russell Chihuahua mix, maybe, and it got really, really ill. And it's fortunately come out the other side. But yes, no to scavenging. It's not okay. Your dog can get ill.
Yeah, and I think especially in today's day and age, where people are purposefully, poisoning things to poison dogs, or putting
Yeah.
poison in things to poison dogs, and kind of laying them out in the parks and things like that. And you're certainly reading so much more about that now
Yeah.
than you ever used to. So yeah, it is really really important that you're not allowing the dog to scavenge,
And
take any food from
they
the
get
floor.
so crafty and clever at it. Like Rafiki, when she was like, I shouldn't laugh. I can laugh because I'm on the other side of it now. But she got to the point where like because she knew I would stop her, she would see something way before or smell it way before I did. And she would literally grab something and then hold it in her mouth and not chew because she knows
Hmm.
I'm watching her. So she'd be like, "Hey,"
Yeah.
and she will hold it for ages. And it just got to a point, I'm just going to watch you because I know you've got that in your mouth. And sometimes she'd just spit it out. Sometimes she'd wait for me to break and then I'd start chewing and I'd like take it out of her mouth. But she'd always as soon as my hand went towards her mouth, she'd like just like, "Bleh," just spit it out
Yeah.
because she knows
Yeah.
I will take it. I don't care what it is. I'll wash my hands when I get home. But yeah, she just got so crafty with it that it just became hilarious because as much as she'd see it before I was constantly anticipating the fact that scavenging was a risk because of the steroids. Um, yeah, it just so I would be watching her and she's like watching that bone that's like she can see that bit of chicken that's 10 feet ahead and she'd like literally just like swipe it and just hold it like this. Such a sod. But it's just important in those times. So with me, when it came to the scavenging, 100% of the time, I was on it when it came to her scavenging in the
Hmm.
management sense. I was on it. And I think for many owners, for many just, your typical dog owner, like we're professionals in this field, but for many owners that just your typical dog owner that are just trying their hardest, they can be so disheartened by something like that. They're like, oh, she was so good for like a year or 6 months or 1 month. And now it's just all unraveling and it's really hard to see the bigger picture in terms of, well, no,
Hmm.
look how much you've done. Like this is a minor setback on the grand scheme of things. This is a minor setback. Deal with it. Don't give up. Because if you're only going to be on it 80% of the time, 60% of the time, 50% of the time, there's no point in being on it at all because your dog will just realize that, well, she's only going to moan at me a little bit, or there's a
Occasionally.
50% chance that she will leave me. So I'm gonna try
Hmm.
and do this thing that I deem to be
Hmm.
super rewarding. Um, because there's a chance that I might get a reward, and there's a
Hmm.
chance that I might get in trouble for it, but there's also a massive chance. So what Rafiki needed to realize was you will always get in trouble for that, no matter what. There was
Yeah.
always going to be, whether it be me removing the food from your mouth because she will see that as a
Hmm.
punishment, me telling you off, me using a tool to tell her off. There's always going to be an issue. I'm always going to be on top of that behavior. So it's not worth it. And eventually your dog will think, oh, it's a waste of time. I might as well listen because at least I get a treat if I listen or get good girl if I listen or whatever.
Hmm.
But if you just, say leave it to the first three things and then the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh thing, you think, oh, do you know what? I'm tired. I can't be bothered.
Hmm.
Then you are creating a bigger issue
Hmm.
that will travel, much how we saw with Rafiki, who is a very well behaved dog. And I saw that progress quite quickly to now I'm not recalling. If that
Hmm.
can happen to a dog's trainer's dog, that can happen to anyone's dog.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so the importance of just always making sure you're following through. If you start something, you must follow through. It's
Hmm.
not, if your dog jumps up on you and you say, get down, jumps up, get down, and then the third time you're like, oh, forget it. And you just give them a stroke or you let them get away with it. There was no point in telling your dog to not jump up the
No.
first few
Yeah.
times,
Yeah.
creating a bigger problem because that will
Or
do her.
it's like I don't mind my dog jumping up at me when I come home because they're happy to see me. But the rest of the time, you don't want your dog to jump up on you.
How do you tell that to the dog?
How do you tell that to the dog? You know, I
Yeah.
don't mind the dog jumping up on the sofa as long as it's invited.
Yeah.
Is there not a grey
Yeah.
area there that you're bringing in for the dog? How confusing
Yeah.
must that
You
be?
do, you make life a lot harder for yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
You're making life a lot harder for yourself. So you decide if the dog is allowed on the sofa or not. That's
Yeah.
your choice, but make that decision and stick with it. And if something that I always say when it comes to furniture, if you can't tell your dog to get down and they get down and stay down,
Hmm.
your dog's not allowed
No, yeah,
furniture. That's just
absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
Um, because issues will arise. And I had that quite recently with a client that I went to. I haven't heard back from them. I'm not surprised. But there was just massive issues with in every possible area of this dog's training. It was really undermined. All of the behaviors were really, really, really what is the word? Lessened.
Yeah.
Minimized. It was really
Minimum.
minimized. And this dog was something that I couldn't have imagined walking into. I just couldn't believe it. And it was something as simple as I said to them, you need to ban that dog from the sofa. This is your first step. Your dog, this is your dog's house. And they admit it. We just live here, they said. It's the dog's house. We just live here. And although you find that
Wow.
maybe in your head, this is so dangerous.
Hmm.
So, so dangerous. Um, and I said the first thing I want you to do is to ban the dog from the sofa until you can tell that dog get down and it gets down. And they said, no, we can't do that. They said, we can't do that. We're not willing to do
Wow.
it. I said, all right. Um, it just sounds as if they wanted a trainer that done things their way, but their
Yeah.
way has not worked. I won't go too much into it because it will be interesting to bring up when the warden is here. But
Yeah.
when I was on my way, the person said to me, they're just apologizing for the behavior in advance. I said, never apologize for your dog's behavior. You're calling out a dog trainer.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't, you're taking
We're here
action,
to help.
being
Yeah.
proactive. You need help, you've admitted it, and you're calling a dog trainer. Um, I want you to do, I always say this to owners, I want you to don't act as if a dog trainer's coming to the house, act as if anyone's coming to the house. I need to
Yeah.
see what you're doing because I need to be able to see what you're doing wrong. The only thing that I make clear is if there is a bite risk, you need to remove your dog from the
Yeah.
room. The dog needs to be
Yeah.
locked away until I say that dog comes out, and so on and so forth. The dog bit me twice, not hard. It wasn't a,
Wow.
so when I say the dog bit me twice, a bite is a bite. I'm not going to minimize
Yeah.
it. If teeth
Yeah.
touch skin, you've
Yeah.
bitten me.
So much.
Yes. But what I will say is that it was, there was
Right. Yeah.
not
Yeah.
even I barely felt it.
Yeah.
I said, your dog's teeth has just touched me. That is a bite. I said to you, is there a bite risk? Because now I can't trust you at all.
No.
I trust you
Yeah.
at all now. Your dog has put his teeth on me because you told it off. You told it no, and the dog's had a go at you and and has put his teeth on me. Um, but yeah, so I won't go too much into that. But it's just we'll do that one with the dog warden. But how everything just piled on top of each other. And my thing was, if you can't get your dog, simplest thing in this household right now to get some manners in this dog is to ban it from the sofa. If you can't do this, you will never stop your dog from biting a guest.
Hmm.
You'll never stop your dog from jumping on a guest,
Hmm.
jumping on the gate, nicking things, doing this, doing that.
Hmm.
They didn't want to do it. That was it. I was their third dog trainer. Um, I'd actually been speaking to them since 2020. I think it was 22. They reached out to me initially. And since then, they'd sent their dog on a boot camp. Oh, I think so. I might be mixing up dogs, but I think they've sent their dog on a boot camp. They had another trainer come out, and then me as well. But yeah, they initially reached out to me in 22 and then cancelled. And then whenever someone's cancelled, I'm like, see you in a few years, mate. See you in a few
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
But yeah, so third dog trainer. And although I don't completely agree with the methods that they described of the dog trainers prior to me, I'm also like, no, you're definitely the problem.
Yeah.
I don't agree with what these other dog trainers have put in place. That could be for
Yeah.
many reasons. It might simply be because I don't understand it. But right now, they were not the problem. The problem. But yeah, it's just another example of how these behaviors can manifest.
Uh-huh. And again,
And
how that consistency and lack of reinforcement can have such a detrimental impact on how the dog's behaving. Because ultimately, for that dog, unless they step up and realize that there is a major issue, it pains me to say it, but there's only one way that dog's going, and that's either to rescue or euthanized.
yeah, yeah, the
You
problem
know,
doesn't
and
matter.
that's sad.
Just getting my charger. Carry on.
Yeah, no
Sorry.
worries. So one thing you touched on, which I really like, um, and probably quite good to kind of start wrapping up. Something you said earlier is um, how for owners they can become really disheartened, and the dog has a kind of a bad day, so you get disheartened. The training becomes less consistent. The reinforcement doesn't then kind of come into play as much because you're so. I think one thing that's really for me that I notice a lot is human nature is to always look at the bad things. It's very easy to write a bad review of someone, whereas when someone's done something really well, you tend to go, "Oh, that was lovely, great, yeah, cool," and you move on with your
And you
day.
just move on.
Yeah, is try not to, from kind of for the owners, try not to focus on, "Oh God, they're having a bad day," because ultimately we all have bad days. But try and look at the positives and the small wins,
Yeah.
because if you can look at the small wins and the positives, I always think that leaves you in good stead to then keep your training in a much more consistent,
More
you keep it
motivating.
more reinforced. Um, and then that way you're not looking at the negatives, you're not getting that disheartened feeling, you're not getting frustrated. I always think frustration is one of the worst kind of emotions that you can have because it's so
Yeah.
pent up and um, but instead you can go, she done that really good today, that was a really good job, and it just keeps you going with your training journey.
Yeah.
um, so
Something.
yeah, that
Yeah. Go on, sorry.
no, I was gonna say that's my bit of advice for the day.
No, yeah, there is a couple that I've been working with. I've met them twice. Met them in December, and it was just before they was having a bubba. So no, November I met them, and they was a few weeks away from due date. And this dog, lovely in its nature toward humans, like very friendly, what I mean by that, but was a bit chaotic when it come to walking past other dogs and prey drive and they couldn't leave it on its own. So there was a fair few issues that were quite isolating and beyond management. There's a few areas that they're still struggling with, and we're still working through it. But what I had to do was go backwards and say, do you know what? They had told me that things were at home were going really, really, really well. Like this has been conquered, that's been conquered, and so on and so forth. But they just couldn't transfer the stuff to the outside world. And something dawned on me. I said, can you show me how well things are going inside? Because it's not adding up. When they showed me, I realized that although things were better, they wasn't as well as what they were saying. It's just that they were so happy that things were better and that they were able to leave the dog alone and stuff like that. So because there were still quite ill behaviors inside, but they was at the point where it was like, oh, we're okay with that because
Hmm.
and this has been dealt with. But I said I find it extremely it's not a coincidence that your dog's behavior has improved up to, let's say, number 7 inside the house and only number 7 outside the house.
Hmm.
Because what they needed to do was carry on inside the house
Yeah.
before they went outside. So we've completely gone backwards
Yeah.
now. But they did get to the point where they were shattered. When I say shattered, I mean more battered, just because something bad had happened. They had a bad day, like where the dog exploded. It's always on the lead. They always keep the dog on the lead. The dog had exploded, and it just became just overwhelming. And the man, the one of the, I think it was the one, I can't remember which one, was getting just a bit panicky now, or just a bit overwhelmed now because they've been trying, and they've done really well to this certain point and couldn't cross that threshold. So when I spoke to them, I said, you know what? I think what you need to do right now is, although we're going to carry on working on this issue and we will get there. And we've put new things in place for me to review. But I said, what I need you to do right now is to look at the original questionnaire and look at all of the problems that your dog had. Your dog had a prey drive issue. Your dog had a scavenging issue. Your dog couldn't be left alone. Your dog would batter people coming in the house with its friendliness.
Hmm.
Your dog would have to sleep in the bedroom with you. And your dog had an issue with other dogs. And right now, what we're seeing is your dog just has an issue with other dogs.
Hmm.
Look at what you've done. This is,
Yeah. Yeah.
conquering a prey drive and scavenging is something that I hear trainers, people that claim that they're professionals, say is impossible. They say it's impossible. And they say things like put a muzzle on the dog to stop it scavenging. And you have done this as a novice, as a first-time dog owner. You have achieved all of this and you've done it in such a short, on the grand scheme of things, such a short window. This dog has got, a 15-year life span, and it's now 2 or 3. So this last 6 months has been a drop in the ocean. Considering now you've got a dog where you've conquered all of these things,
Hmm.
it's a drop in the ocean. You can't now feel disheartened and give up. Use it as a driver.
Yeah.
Everything
Yeah.
you've
Keep
achieved,
going.
just keep going. It's
Yeah.
so easy to get disheartened. When Rafiki started scavenging again, I didn't get disheartened.
No.
I just got to chuck her in the lead. And there are some
Hmm.
things that have, disheartened me in the past, or worried me. I briefly touched on a little while ago that she was attacked a few weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
My brain goes to, oh my God, what's this going to do? I hope she doesn't, when she's
Hmm.
a dog, brain went on it went on a tumble, an absolute tumble. And then actually phoned Robert and had like a good 45-minute convo about how annoying this man was and how hard I've worked with Rafiki and how dare he come and unravel it and he should have his dog on the lead. Didn't even have a collar on. We'll touch more on that with dog warden.
Hmm.
No lead, no collar. And then he was just like, what are you moaning about? Even if that did happen, you just fix it. You fixed it before, you fix it again.
Yeah.
What's your problem? But it's like sometimes you just need that reality sentence, that one sentence
100%.
said to them,
Yeah.
go back to that questionnaire that you filled out and you look at every single problem
Hmm.
you came to me with and look what you've done. So
Yeah.
no need to get disheartened. If you're feeling
Yeah.
overwhelmed, just have a morning off.
Yeah.
Don't do a training walk, just do a toilet
Uh-huh.
walk. Quick toilet walk, get in the house. Done.
Yeah.
Just don't start something if you're going to give up. So if you're going to tell your dog to get off the sofa, make sure your dog is getting off the sofa. If you're going to
Hmm.
not tell you, if you're not going to be able to reinforce that, don't start it. You do more
Hmm.
damage. So
Yeah.
if you think I don't have it in me, I'm not well at this moment, you need to tap in with that feeling and just accept that you're not able to do this right now. Whether that
Hmm.
means, your dog goes to its crate, that's fine. Go to the crate for a few hours, no problem whatsoever. Or your dog sits on the sofa with you and you just sit there together and you don't try and, tell it to get off and go through that. If you're just going to give up, if you're
Yeah.
going to follow through, go for it. But if you're just going to give up, if you're just going to give up with the recall when you're getting your dog back, leave it on the lead. If you're just going to give
Yeah.
up, just you have to follow through because otherwise your issues are just going to manifest everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. No. So just to wrap up then, um, tell us a little bit about bit one dog training. Where do you cover? What do you do?
Oh, I cover everywhere really. I just go with it. Just cover everywhere. There's no problem that I won't come out to
Solve.
address. Yeah.
Good
Pretty
stuff.
fantastic to be honest.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, 5 stars
100%.
across the board in that. Not to gloat. Oh God. I cover everywhere, but if I know someone else covers an area, like if I got someone called me and they're in Croydon, I'm like, here's a number for Croydon.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's Dan. But if you wasn't available, then yeah, I cover everywhere
Yeah.
as far as Windsor and Reading.
Cool.
Um, cover everywhere. And I'm gonna put both of our details again, like I did last time on the bottom.
Oh, cool.
Um, but yeah, you've got a new quick less than a minute, quickly your new class coming up.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So I am running Introduction to Scent Work workshop, which should be good. So we'll be teaching dogs how to scent for an object, a little bit like what the police dogs do. So it is just an introduction. So after an hour and a half, they're not going to be able to scent anything amazing. But it's just a little bit of a fun workshop and a
Yeah.
bit of something for the owners to do that's beneficial for the dog and for the owners as well. Builds on that relationship and it helps with a little bit of off lead control.
Yeah. Send
But
me a
yeah,
picture.
exciting.
I'll post it up on your face. Yeah.
Thank you. It's way better than actually having to look at this face.
I'll
So
post it up. Yeah. All right, perfect. All right,
excellent.
before
Nice
we get
one.
cut off, speak to you soon. Thanks a lot.
Yes, I'll speak
See
soon.
you.
I
Thank
will
you.
chase